It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
All right, y'all, it's about to go down. I'm Marc Williams.
I'm Cathey Armillas, and this is Amelia Marican, and we're so excited to have her on our show today. She is zooming in all the way from Singapore, one of my favorite places in the world. Love it there. If you haven't been there, check it out. I know this feels it feels a little bit like a commercial for Singapore, and maybe it is. I love it. But I am so excited to have this conversation with you, Amelia, because your idea is that skills are your superpowers. Your skills are your superpowers. And you had said that a lot of people say knowledge is power, but your idea is more that your skills are your superpower, right? Tell us about your idea a little bit more so we can kind of get into it.
Wonderful. So, all of us have been growing up and knowing that, okay, people are always telling us that knowledge is power, knowledge is power. But in fact, in today's age, knowing something is just not good enough. We all know a lot of things, right? Let's just look at it, give it some context, right? Everybody knows what it takes to lose weight. But how come there's so many obese people around, right? Everybody knows what needs to be done, but whether that gets done is another thing, right? So how this idea all evolved really is, just like to share this Stonehenge analogy, because I was there a couple of years ago with my family, and the feeling that I got when I was there at Stonehenge brought me back when I was thinking about this whole post-pandemic situation that we are in. So let me give you some context, right? Let's say our lives are surrounded with 100 boulders. Okay, and imagine pre-pandemic, before all of this chaos is happening, right? 95 of these boulders are still. They are being nailed to the ground. They are stationary. They are not moving. And only maybe 5 of them are moving around you. Right? This gives people a lot of sense of certainty because, hey, 95 of them are rooted, right? But in today's world, it's the complete opposite, unfortunately. Only 5 of these boulders are being nailed to the ground and 95 of them are moving around, moving in motion. Everything's moving so quickly and there's really nothing to grab onto. So, in the past, we used to be able to grab onto our jobs, but now, jobs could be lost just in a snap. We used to be able to take an air ticket flight to your family overseas, but now we can't do that. In the last 1 year, 1+ years, we're not able to do that. So in this time of incredible change, and people see change is constant, right? But the way I see change is opportunity. So what we want to really look for the opportunity amidst the chaos, look for needs that needs to be fulfilled, and look for problems that need to be fixed. And how, right? The big $1 million question is how. The answer is skills. Skills are your superpower. And here's something that none of you will believe me, right? I grew up as a very shy, quiet, and nervous young girl.
Marc's like, get out of here.
It's true. Exactly. That's why I'm saying this is something none of you would believe, right? So once upon a time, that was who I was. Right. And all of us are born on a clean slate, right? A white canvas. We don't have the knowledge, we don't have the skills, and everything is kind of built upon one another, on top of each other as we grow up, basically. So, confidence itself is a skill. I didn't have none of that growing up. So what my parents will always do is on our Sunday breakfast, when I want to order a specific drink, they'll tell me, Amelia, you want that drink? Go and order it yourself. So me being that 4-year-old child looking up to a complete stranger who's twice my height or maybe 6-7 times my age, trying to order a drink that, it's scary. But as I kept doing that every single week, I kind of picked up the skill of confidence, right? And a lot of people will think that, this person is born with confidence. This person is born with sass and cool and all those different things. But hey, all of these things are being picked up. All these skills can be picked up. So I guess the main thing that we really want to dive into is not just knowing, but really about doing, implementing, and picking up these skills along the way. because your skills are your superpowers that will stick with you for the rest of your life.
Ooh.
Love that, Amelia.
Yeah.
I have a quick question on, I like when I hear that, like, I'm like, ooh, I love the line. Marc and I love lines. Marc and I love things that are catchy. We love that. But when we start to like, when I start to think about the skills, there's a couple of questions my mind asks me immediately. Are we talking soft skills? Are we talking hard skills? What is Amelia's like system to get? So we believe it, right? It's one of those things, you just said it, like people know what they should do, but then there's still people that are obese, or there's still people that, you know, struggle with different things. So knowing is not always, you know, the answer. It's like, so what's kind of your system? What do you put to that? If you're like, oh, skills are the answer, what are you kind of defining as skills? Because you just talked about confidence, and that's a very different skill than being a heart surgeon, or, you know, although you should be confident if you're a heart surgeon, just by the way, FYI.
Disclaimer, yes, disclaimer right there. You have to be. It's a fundamental thing, right? So for me, I think skills really is more towards soft skills. Maybe it's because of the nature of what I do. Just like the both of you, Cathey and Marc, I'm also a coach, and in fact I started my business at the age of 20. So picking up these skills from a very young age is something that I was like, okay, boom, boom, boom. What is the next thing I got to learn? I got to learn, pick up from this person, speak to a more experienced person in the area, you know, all these things. So for me, skills would be things like coaching skills, copywriting skills, you know, closing skills when it comes to sales and all of that, digital marketing skills, communication skills. So being the person that I am, who's more around branding and communication, I feel that skills is really how you carry yourself. Or rather, you know, if you were to carry a mirror in front of you, whatever you see reflected off that mirror is what you have in you. It's all the skills that you have acquired in you. The way you dress, the way you speak, the way you smile, the way you communicate. All these things are soft skills. Right? To come back to your question, Cathey, are soft skills that you have within you that you're going to carry it through till the day you die, literally. Yeah.
Got it. Now I got to follow up for this, because thank you for that clarity. There's two things that are on my mind right now, but I'm only going to ask one right now. You asked the question, or rather you might have said this and then I wrote down the question, what is the next skill I can learn? And I'm wondering, is your idea around how we should be accumulating a lot of different skills? Or is it that, you know, a lot of people say, pick one skill and become really great at it. Are you saying something different? Are you saying like every day we should be consuming, or every time we turn around, we should be consuming a new skill? Is that what you're saying?
Great question, Marc. I feel that you don't want to be everything to everybody, right? We as human beings, we are not like geniuses, right? We want to solve one type of person's problems. We cannot be expected to be doing plumbing and a heart surgeon, you know, skill, and also do architecture. Right? We can't possibly do all these different things. So if I were to answer your question, Marc, really is don't try to be everybody. Don't try to be everything to everybody. So have a broad set of skills, but go deep in one or maybe two, right? Something that is specific to your role, you know, or to your area of expertise. Yeah. So have some others as well. But go deep. When I say pick up, right? When you speak to people in the industry, I mean like really going deep into one or two particular skills and then being a master at it. Because let's face it, right? People hire you because you are a master in your specific domain.
So let's go back to Cathey's question, right? You're saying your idea is for us to go deep into at least one or two skills. What's the process for doing that? Because I thought that was a really good question that Cathey asked. What's the process for developing and going deep into one skill?
Okay, great question. So I feel that first of all, first question is you want to look into what is it that you are doing? What are you offering? If you're a service provider, what solution are you providing? Right? And then start looking out for competitors that are in your space. Okay. Say, for example, say you are in the motivation space, for example, right? Say you are a motivation speaker, or you are a keynote speaker and whatnot. So you want to look for people who are crushing it in that industry, right? Maybe you'll look at people like Tony Robbins. You will look at people like, I don't know, Gary Vee, Grant Cardone, all these different big names, right? So look into what they are teaching, their areas of expertise, and then learn from these people. Because to me, I feel success leaves clues. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, right? These people have done a specific set of steps to get to where they are. So if we want to go along that route, just follow the same steps. So what I mean by, picking up, what is the process of picking up these skills is really looking at someone who's been there, done that. And that's why we have coaches, right? Someone who has been there, done that, and learn from these people. That's it. Just look for one, someone who's 2-3 steps ahead of you. Get coached by this person. This person will kind of shortcut your learning curve and bring you where you want to go.
Amelia, I think that first of all, I love your idea. I love this idea because I love this idea of, I feel like it's some kind of a gamification. I picture myself like gathering all these skills, right? But then like really going, honing in on one or two, like you say, and being able to go deep. But, one thing that I think is really critical, and Marc and I always do this when we're like coaching somebody, we have to kind of wear all these hats as kind of an ideas coach, speaker coach. Some of it's like when we get deep into a level with somebody, we might actually talk about the exact words they use and get very specific about how they polish it or how they say it. But I think we always start at the beginning, like really trying to say, we need you to have a really good rooted idea that people will understand immediately. And then they'll look to you for a system. They won't just say, oh, Amelia said something cool, check. But they'll go, no, Amelia's system to become, a skilled superpower, have skills as my superpower is something that Amelia taught me. So in this area, I would love to kind of go deeper on that for a second. I think it's a really good idea. I loved where you started to go when you're like, oh yeah, look at Tony Robbins, and you're right. Success totally leaves clues. But I also think one of the things that we should always do, and like you should do for yourself too, is be you. Like nobody's ever going to be another Tony Robbins. Nobody will ever be Gary Vee. So like, I think you should be trying to help people. I think you should be gearing them and finding what makes their special mixture. What's their special sauce of skills, and it's going to be, everybody's is different, because you could throw like 100 great skills. And then I think you mix them all together. My version's going to be very different than yours, Amelia, and then Marc's. So like if you were going to go give this tomorrow as a keynote, or you were going to train on it, how would you structure this? How would you support this? How would you get people to get to that quickly?
Okay. So I think
I just said a lot of things, by the way. I literally was like, I just said so many things.
You dropped the bomb, Cathey.
Let me back up and ask it again so I don't confuse you. I'm saying that I would love to see us break this down for you so that you have an easier, like if we were just like, okay, let's just talk about the structure. You're going to give a 60-minute keynote tomorrow. You're going to open with Amelia. You're a rock star. You've got so much energy, and you're going to get people totally sold on this idea that my skills are my superpower. But then what's the way that you're going to pull that out of me and teach me that, oh, I need to gather a bunch, but go deep on one or two. I need to look around. Like, what's going to be the way that you get me there?
Okay. So I think for me, really, during this whole pandemic situation, the reason why skills are more important now than ever before is because now everything is virtual, right? Everything is online. People are all, all the companies are all going up online. So the way I like to look at it is that we are going to be seeing more change in the next 12 months than we have ever seen in the last 12 years. So the way I really like to look at this is to dominate a specific industry or dominate a specific area. And okay, I think right now what's the biggest concern is this: a lot of things are being automated. Right? A lot of AI and artificial intelligence are coming into our space, and a lot of people are afraid that their jobs are going to be obsolete. Right? So yeah, sure, there's some, repetitive, mundane jobs that's definitely going to be replaced. So then again, it comes back to what is your skill that you can then step up and be like, hey, I have that particular skill that won't be replaced. For example, let me give you a quick example, right? For all of our listeners who are listening, cashiering, for example. Nowadays, we have all these mobile apps that we can straight away do payments, right? So we don't need cashiers anymore. So then again, it comes back to what other skills do you have? So for example, communication, empathy, creativity are things that AI can never erase or can never replace. So us as human beings, we have the capacity right now to let these robots do whatever they have to do, which are the things that we don't want to do anyway, right? And really spend more time into the more creative works, right? Looking at things from different perspectives. How do you deal with difficult customers, right? Empathy, communication, things like that. So if right out of the gate, Cathey, to answer your question, I feel that as a human being, if you consider yourself a human being, you're a creative person and you have these three things. You'll be able to communicate well with other human beings and understand what they're going through. You're going to have empathy. You're going to use a lot of your heart. And also you're going to have a lot of creativity, using your creativity that is coming up from up here. So if those are skills that, you want to pick up right out of the gate, those are the three things, right? Your brain, creativity, your heart, empathy, and your mouth, communication.
Heart.
You this because I want to hear what you have to say about this, Marc. But one of the, I don't know about you, but when she put in that angle of like futurism and AI, that really became relevant real quick, right? Because it's a little bit different than the generic, like you should just better your skills. Now it actually there was some specificity to it.
All right. So this is why I love you, Cathey. Our brains are like,
I know, I could feel the connection.
When you said the future thing and the AI thing, the question I wrote down is, what is your irreplaceable skill?
Ooh, yes. Yeah. Ooh. And that even goes beyond future, because it's just like, but you've really honed into like, it says so much. It says like, what's that thing that you do that nobody can do like you?
Right? No body, no robot. Nothing. What do you think, Amelia?
Okay, so all of us have our unique stand on this, right? All of us have our strengths. Us being human beings, we have strengths, we have weaknesses, sure. So the thing that really helps us to stand apart is what makes you human, right? What makes you different? So most of us, has got to be our life story. The things that we have gone through in our lives that has shaped us into the person that we are. The people that we have met that has shaped us into the person that we are. And then, of course, how do we convert all of this experience that we've got in X number of years and then convert it into something that the people that we are helping can use? So I think it really comes down to how are we internalizing our past experiences, or the coaches that we've had, or the mentors that we've had, or, our parents, their upbringing, like how do they bring us up? All these experiences have impacted me for a fact, have impacted me into the person that I am today. And it has definitely impacted the way I communicate with my clients as well, or even with my friends and family. It has changed. So I think the irreplaceable factor really is using what you have from your past, internalizing it into what you have today, and of course, helping people into shaping their futures. Because the way I like to look at it is this, I've got a couple of mentors growing up, right? When I first started the business, I was at a ground zero. I've got some mentors, some coaches to kind of pick me up along the way. And this idea of kind of like molding these different ideas that I've got from these different coaches into something that works for me, and then helping somebody else. So I had this one client from a rural country, and she was like, you know what, Amelia, I'm just going to jump into your program, and I need your help. So at that point, I didn't know anything about her, her family situation, her financial situation, but I could see that drive in her. She wanted to make her idea big. So I, helped her and worked with her and all of that. And then what happened is that in just 2 months, she brought her business up from nothing to about $50,000. And not only did that change her life, her business, it changed her family's lives. She brought her whole family to a new area of a new, estate in that country. All her children were in better schools. So I feel that it is, that past experience that I have gotten from my coaches, from my, my different experiences, transforming it into something that can then be applied for somebody else to changing their future.
So Amelia, that's awesome. And that's another angle. So think about this. If the core of what you're saying is that you have to have your skills are your superpower, and then we're like, so Marc and I are trying to get at this, like, we want you to be able to like quickly get people there. That's another total angle right there. There wasn't the other angle of like irreplaceable, this futuristic kind of, you have an irreplaceable skill that, you use creativity, robots can't replicate, empathy, creativity. And then there's this other one that I love a lot, which is like, you are a mixture, you're a recipe of all the past experiences that you've ever had, of all the mentors, family, friends, enemies, strangers, people that you've met, people that made fun of you in school and, whatever, like everything. You're kind of you are a blend
of everything.
Yeah, you've blended everything. This is your recipe. That's a whole nother thing too. And I feel like they're different. Things. So the first thing that I would say with your idea, Amelia, is like, figure out which angle you want to go and like double down on that, because you have to have a very clear way that you talk about this. And not that you can never talk about it in any other ways, but again, I would like somebody to say, oh, Amelia's idea is that, your skill is your superpower, but it's really cool how she gets you there. And then she gets you there by, maybe part of your system is you like write down the top 10 most influential people that have ever touched your life in any way, shape, or form. Maybe it's somebody you never met on TV, or, somebody in history that's not even alive. Then maybe the top 10 things that have happened to you, good and bad. Like there's some really bad things that happened to me that shaped my life. And so, but now you have this like really powerful formula. I'm just going this way for a second, right? But now you have this really powerful like way to get people there very quickly. And then people are like, oh, that's awesome. That makes sense. I can go down that route. So Marc, what do you think?
I as soon as you said, because I love the process part of what you just shared, and the whole tangible idea of, I would love to think about who are the top 10 most influential people in my personal life. And I would love to think about what are the top 10 most influential moments in my life. And I would love to do some kind of, it's not math, but for lack of a better term, some mental math or maybe some mental mapping to then figure out, based on those things, what is that irreplaceable skill, or what is that irreplaceable factor that I have that I can use to solve a problem? And I think that's a key part of it that you said earlier that I think is really instrumental. It's also about identifying a problem that you can fix and address with this irreplaceable skill that was created through the blend of the 10 people and the 10 moments and the 10 enemies and the 10 and the 10 and the 10 and the 10.
I don't know if you're listening to him, Amelia, but it's really cool to hear your own idea and then hear somebody else say it. Put it to words. And so when he said your irreplaceable skill, it's now becoming not just a term. It's now becoming, it feels like a branded thing. It's starting to feel like a branded thing. And there's so much more importance on an irreplaceable skill than just a skill. So I think you should consider that too, because your line of like your skills are your superpower. That's still I think that's a really powerful, like, phrase or catchphrase, like what we call it. But it's not really I don't think it's really the heart of what you're saying, which is what does make it a superpower. I think that it's irreplaceable. Yeah. And now I'm starting to understand it a little bit more, Amelia. Like now it makes a lot more sense to me what you're saying. Cause at first I was like, oh, I'd be confused if I was listening, like what kind of skill. Now we've clearly defined, that they're like soft skills. But now we're even going further. And I think where Marc's heading is really good. It's like, how do you get people to the irreplaceable skills? Do you do this exercise with the top 10? And I love that. I mean, I pictured that as soon as you said it. I was just like, wow, I'm imagining all these things that really impact me.
Right. Okay. So I'm getting a better understanding of where this is going right now, right? So when, both of you were sharing this top 10 thing, it brought me back to many, many years ago when I did this exercise. Very similar, Cathey, very similar to what the both of you are saying. So what one of my coaches did with me was this, right? Just choose 3 people who were the closest to you. Okay. So at that point, the closest people to me were, first of all, my mom, one of my best friends from secondary school, and one of my another very, very close friend, like almost like a family friend. So what this coach asked me to do was this: just send a simple text to these 3 people who knows you in and out, who knows that, even if they were to say bad things about you, the friendship is not over, right? So choose people who you trust, basically, and just ask them a very simple question. What are 3 of your strengths, 3 of your weaknesses, 3 of your likes, and 3 of your dislikes? And the interesting thing that came back from these 3 people was that I saw a pattern that I did not realize. And the thing that really stood out for me was that all 3 of them knew that I was a person about time. I was very tight on time. I was very tight on schedule. And as you can see, just behind me on the top of my wall, I have got 4 clocks.
I love the clock.
Yeah. So
I love it.
So I'm a person who is very, at this hour, I even have a timetable. And that's something that we used to have back in primary school, secondary school, right? From this time to this time is what period? From this time to this time is what period? So I knew that I was a person of, strict timing. And even when I was speaking to an interior, one of the calls that I have, an interior therapist, she also brought that up. So I was like, oh, wow, people are noticing things about me. So similarly to all of, whoever's listening, same thing, we want to be asking the people who are closest to us. So first of all, your strengths, weaknesses, likes and dislikes. And then another thing that if I can add a spin to this is, what are things that people usually come to you for? When people are reaching out to you,
that's like your skill finding you, because sometimes you don't know what sometimes you wouldn't know that. And then if people keep asking you, you're like, why is everybody asking me to do this thing? I'm not a blah, 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 or whatever.
Yes. I'm not an expert in this.
I'm not a math teacher and I'm not an English teacher. Marc's an English teacher.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So start to pick out on the patterns, right? What are people coming to you for? What are they asking your advice of, on what areas or what topics? And you start to see that this is the perception that people have of you, right? Maybe your area of expertise is more in this area. So that's where you want to go into.
Hey, let me ask you a question, Amelia. With that part of the process, would your idea be that I should ask myself the question, what do people come to me for? Or should I be asking other people that question?
That's a really interesting thought, Marc.
Putting a spin to, looking at it from different perspective. I think you can do both, Marc, right? We can obviously ask people, okay, what do you usually come to me for? But that would be difficult for them to answer because they'll be like, they'll be looking through the whole database of all the prior conversations that you've had together. But at the same time, we can do our part and start looking up for patterns, right? You've got a friend from this age, if you've got a friend from that area, your colleague, your family member, like if you start to see that people who don't know each other are coming to you for the same things, then I think that it's a trend that you're looking into. And that's where you can start to pick out that, oh, maybe, okay, some people, for example, a lot of people go to them for relationship advice, for example, although they are single, right? We've got that one friend who a lot of
I want
people
to find out how you're single all the time. I need to know.
Yeah, but this person is giving relationship advice just like that. So probably this person has that empathy, right? Has the ability to make the other person feel like, hey, I understand what you're going through. They may not have the experience, but they understand. They make you feel like, yeah, I get it. I understand what you're going through. And because of that, people start to come to them because they feel comfort expressing their thoughts, their experiences with you. So, just looking around you, we don't have to look too far. It's all around us, right? What are people coming to us for? Or like, what are some problems that you are solving for other people, whether you're being paid for it or not? Right? Sometimes go ahead, Cathey.
No, I was going to say, this is really good, Amelia. I think you're really getting deep on this, which is like, you're starting to like uncover a whole bunch of things. And I love this because I feel like your idea, you're now like going really, really deep on the idea because you're shaping it. You're shaping it, you're adding more depth to it. And it's making me think about different things. It's like, okay, if I think about this, what are people coming to me for? I know one thing that I used to hate that people said to me all the time. They're like, you're such a good designer. And I was like, I'm not a designer. But when I had to be real about it, I was like, I am pretty geeky and I like self-taught myself so much stuff. And I designed like a lot of things, like my book and cover and stuff. But I always cringed at that, but you're right. I mean, when somebody comes to you and tells you that, you're like, oh, well, maybe that actually is a skill that I have, even if I didn't like it, but I'm still good at it. And so I think you're starting to uncover some areas. I love the exercise. There's always this exercise. I do a similar exercise. I'll ask people that I'm coaching, go find, 10 people or 9 people, like maybe 3 people that are your family or really close to you, 3 friends, and then, or 3 coworkers or people that don't know you that well. And then 3 people that you haven't talked to for a long time, and ask them kind of to give you 3 adjectives about you. And then see what they say. So I think that kind of work is always interesting. The only thing I would like push you on a little bit is to go further than just the past. Because you mentioned people that just are in your past. They're people that like already know you really well. And I think that one of the things that you can really expand on in this space of like what your irreplaceable skill is to be working from the past, the present, and the future. And so present, obviously you can gather information from people, but then I think some of the work that I think you're getting towards might be what future skill can you have? So that's more like, what can you do today to have this later? So maybe even think about it, because you're a time person, right? Like you're a time person. I got a clock up there too. I just got one. But maybe break that down into that section too, is like thinking about things you were good at in the past, or people that you knew in the past, people that you know now. What do you want to do in the future? I don't know. Just a thought, just an idea, building on this.
I think that's a really good idea. And one of the reasons why that idea resonates with me is because of 2 words that you used, Amelia, that I would push you to think about how do you incorporate them more intentionally in your message. Pattern and trends. Because patterns imply that it continuously goes on, right? It's a trend that continuously goes on. And to connect that with Cathey's point, it's a trend and a pattern because it's connected to the past, the present, and the future. So those 2 words, or one of those 2 words, I think can be instrumental to your message.
Oh my gosh, Marc, that blew my mind, because, I was thinking about this, Amelia. Think about the person that's actually transitioning their career. If you were to only ask people or their family, like, of course, they're going to say everything of what they're really good at right now, but that's not helpful for where they're trying to go. There's also people that have struggled with like, certain addictions, or, struggled with certain personality patterns that they might have that they have come to realize. And they're like, I just really want to change this. So it's not helpful maybe to stay in the past too much. They've got to figure out, they've got to be in that weird space where they've got to change their skill set for the future.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I feel that, your strengths are things that, yes, it may be generic, sure, right? But at the end of the day, these strengths doesn't indicate specifically what skill set that you're going to have, right? Sometimes maybe your strength is just that you love to talk, for example, right? That's one of the strengths. That's one of the strengths that I have. But when I ask,
you're in good company. that makes three of us.
There's three of us. Yes. So just knowing that, right? So it's a very generic thing, and it's using simple words. But at the end of the day, what are going to make sense out of that? So coming back to what the both of you are saying, and that is something more future, right? And for those who are transiting and all of that, the way I like to look at it is that in this situation that we are all in right now, every company, every solopreneur, every business right now needs to make revenue, right? And how I like to see it is that you want to pick up skills that can help businesses create revenue. If you are able to pick up those skills, you will never be out of business or out of job or out of your revenue stream will never go dry. Because what we're really trying to do is we're trying to help others create revenue. And, it could be in the form of like a monthly retainer, it could be in a form of commissions, whatever, right? So coming back down to the skills, if we can pick up the skills that can help others create revenue, we in turn create revenue for ourselves. So
Amelia, you just added another layer of specificity to that too, though, right, Marc? Did you catch that?
Did. Yes, you did. Yes.
So now you're adding to that, which is good. I think this is good. This is becoming more clear because, Marc and I want you to be clear on what you're teaching and what you're saying. So now you're saying that. Now this goes beyond me just being like, I'm talkative. Like, I love to talk.
Yeah.
To like, oh, can I monetize on that? Is there somebody that wants to pay me to talk, And that's a different question.
Right. And now let's take it further as we connect all the dots. I like to talk. How can I use my talking to help organizations or people to build their revenue or value? What is it that's so unique about the way that I talk that would bring that revenue? What are the patterns? What are the trends? What are people saying that is so different about the way that I do things? And so I wonder, maybe also one of the questions becomes when you ask those three people about their strengths and the weaknesses, the likes, the dislikes, maybe another question or an additional question is, what is different about the way that I do something?
Yeah.
Because that irreplaceable part and that value part is so important.
Yeah, I love that, Marc.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing, Marc. Thank you.
Amelia, you're so clearly, like, from the first time I talked to you, like, you're so brilliant. You've got this sparkle and brilliance that you add to like, your thoughts are so wise and smart and brilliant and refreshing. So I want you to, the same thing that you're trying to teach, I want you to come across that way too. Like, I want you to be able to go in quick with people. Like, I want you to say your idea and be able to kind of come in really hard, really strong. I don't want you to have a conversation with somebody for 30 minutes before they're like, oh my gosh. I want you to be able to like now let's talk about going from keynote to TED Talk. Like, I do. And that, and honestly, in all honesty, that's the brilliance of TED right there. Is like, do you know how hard it is to get a really good idea and then to really boil it down to that, small of time, but you have enough time to actually really add some depth and level to it. And so that's what I would love for you to consider, Amelia, too, is like, what will you pull out of here, of what we're coming up with or what we're talking about and use it to get to that quickly.
Okay, so something just came into my mind, right? So a
Let's
bomb
ready
just
to hear
literally dropped in
it.
my head. Yes. So yes. So I started out with talking about skills, right? Maybe right now let's boil down deeper into, since we talked about monetizing and how we can use, all of us are talkative, right? How can we use our high income skills? So it's not just any skill, it's our high income skill. Basically, a skill. I'm getting closer, right, Cathey?
Yeah, you are. Look at Mark's face.
Keep it going.
Yeah.
Bring it on. Yeah. So our high income skills, right? Basically, a skill that can kind of bring in that $10,000 a month or more. So the way I like to look at it is that in a sense of a business, there's really three parts. First part is how do we acquire clients? Second part is how do we convert them, or rather, okay, the first part is how do we acquire leads, generate leads. Second part is how do we convert these leads into clients. And then the third part is how do we nurture them and help them with their transformation. So a lot of coaches, trainers, speakers out there, they are very much focused on that transformation, but they are kind of lacking. It's dry in the beginning part of the pipeline, right? So I guess a high income skill really to help to acquire these leads is definitely digital marketing. And this is something that is, the future is already here. So we need to pick up on those digital marketing skills. And then after that, how do we convert these leads into clients is then our closing skills. How do we close them? How do we sell to them? And then, of course, the last piece of transformation is coaching, which is something that you guys are already doing.
Teaching other people your skills.
Yes. So instead of just skills, right? Yes, skills are your superpowers, of course, but let's look into high income skills. Like how can we make use of those skills to kind of put stuff in our pockets? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm sorry. I just got super excited because especially as an educator, right? And I'm thinking about the young kids growing up, and coming through the world. And I can see you speaking. Well, I mean, I can see you speaking beyond just kids, as Cathey talked about people are transitioning their career, but high income skills.
Marc, I know you were going to say it. Am I just channeling this? I thought you were going to say skills that pay the bills, right? Like
it is the skills that pays the bills. You're right.
Pay the bills.
Quite literally, yeah.
That resonates with so many people. The idea of it's not only an irreplaceable skill, but it's a high income skill, or maybe the fact that it's a high income skill is because it's an irreplaceable skill. I don't know. They all kind of blend together, but I love that concept because I can see how you can really market that to so many people. Listen, we live in a world that is driven by monetary goals. So using like that high income skill is huge. But I'm mad at you because now I'm like, high income skill? Is it a replaceable skill? Which one should it be?
And in all fairness to Amelia, like when Marc and I coach people, our typical range of how we coach somebody, you could coach somebody for 3 months, typical 3 months to give a TED talk. And so what they walk in the door with and say, oh, this is my idea, is never what they stand on a stage and do. There's kind of this ripping it down, breaking it apart, asking questions, pondering, coming up with great ideas, sleeping on those ideas, and then going, you might wake up tomorrow. I know it's early in the morning for you now. You might wake up tomorrow morning and go, oh my God, the conversation we had. Yeah, exactly. The conversation we had made me think about something else. So it's not like that Marc and I are trying to like solve anything in like one conversation here. Our job in this show anyways is like to pull the curtain back and have these conversations that we have constantly. We would have 20 more conversations with you if we were prepping you to give a TED talk, let's say, So I would love for us to be in this moment present, just going, yeah, we can hold two things. We can hold the high income skill and we can hold the irreplaceable skill. And then just go, well, which one's better? And maybe it's both, Amelia. Maybe when you talk, maybe you blend it, or maybe when you talk to a certain group of people, you talk more like, because I could see you coaching and teaching people that are like, maybe like, oh, I'm not really in the market anymore. I'm retired. Or how would you have that conversation with them? Like, their skills are still valuable. Their skills are still their superpower, but now maybe they can use it to volunteer in the community so, but maybe you can be very specific when you're talking to people in the business world. And you're like, at the end of the day, are your skills paying your bills? Like, ask yourself that question. If they're not, like, and I even put that question to myself. I was like, oh, people used to tell me I'm good at design. I was like, yeah, nobody would ever pay me though. So let's just start there. Like, I just don't think anybody would ever pay for certain skills. And so that's a hard question you have to ask yourself, right, Marc? Like, you're thinking about the things that you do, and then you go, okay, but I have to ask myself this question. Like, do I have high income skills? Yes, no, what are they? If not, I need to build them.
Right. Or maybe I haven't figured out how to make my irreplaceable skill a high income.
Oh, oh my God. I love that. So there's the bridge. You just built the Brooklyn Bridge across from that's our favorite bridge. Marc and I walk that bridge all the time. But he just bridged that gap, maybe, Amelia, of like, how do you take your irreplaceable skill and turn it into a high income skill? Ooh, I love that. Wow. There's some fire behind that for sure. And then I think, Amelia, if you're like coaching this or teaching it, that's where you come in, right? That's where you hold the value, if you can help people in that space.
Right. So there's the transformation part, right? So like what I said is the 3 different segments: the lead generation segment, the converting segment, and then the transformation. But a lot of people are very much focused on the transformation before they get this stream coming in. Yeah. So when it comes to high income skills, it's really not just the coaching, but it's also the lead generation as well as the conversion. So that's boom.
Boom.
It's not just a skill.
She said boom, Marc.
Boom.
Love it.
Listen, I wrote down so many things about irreplaceable skills, high income skills, lead generation, transformation, looking for patterns and looking for trends, and the 3 people from the past, the present, thinking about the future, the 3 moments from the past, the present, and thinking about the future. My mind is on fire right now. And I would love to know, Amelia, as we have had a conversation that started with the phrase, your skills are your superpower. Since we started off with that, for you, how has your idea transformed or changed?
So I feel that skills are still your superpower, right? But I guess the angle that we're looking into right now is how your skills pay the bills. If I can quote Cathey on that, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about putting food on the table. It's about bringing up a family or whatnot, right? So at the end of the day, what we really want to focus on is how can these skills now bring in that revenue? How can we pick up these high income skills, whether it is in the form of digital marketing, whether it is in the form of closing, or whether it is in the form of coaching? These are high income skills that helps coaches, trainers, speakers on this journey. Because at the end of the day, Marc and Cathey, it is the skills that pays the bills.
I love it.
Marc and I share this love for rap, and we're always like, he's East Coast, I'm West Coast. So I knew that there was a rap line in there somewhere. I love it.
And I promise I'm not gonna. I was about to say I promised out, but as soon as I say it, I'm like, am I gonna start this East Coast West Coast battle? And like, who was the first rapper who used skills to pay the bills?
I was actually thinking to that myself. Marc, I was like, I've heard it on several samples. I'm like, who was actually the first person that I heard to say that? Now we're going to have to figure that out.
It doesn't even matter. It's just a great international idea. And I say international because today, Cathey, we have gone international on this idea.
We have.
And Amelia, how can people find out, learn more about you, about how they can develop their irreplaceable high income skills? How do they find out more about Amelia Marican?
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So I can be found across the board by just Googling my name. If you just Google Amelia Marican, you can find me. Google creates this whole reputation for me anyway, right? So, just like what I like to tell everybody, Google your name and you can really find out what people are perceiving of you. And you can also find me on Instagram, Facebook with MSpeaks, AMZSPEAKZ. So you can find me on these different platforms. My website is also mspeaks.com. And love to create more transformation for everyone.
Love that.
Amelia.
In fact, I had this conversation with Marc about this ripple effect, right? And I just want to share with everyone here. It's just that, see, Marc is just giggling over there. And that is, so, we can create our impact in just the people around us, right? So we are like a drop in the ocean and we are creating that one ripple around us. And then these people that we are helping is then going to create an impact to the community around them. And that's how we're going to continue creating this impact. So I like to call this ripple effect, impact. And that's what all of us here are doing. We're creating that impact in our, little community around us, and then they're going to go out there and create their own. So thank you both for doing what you do. And thank you so much for this opportunity.
Amelia, thank you. I'm so impressed by the way your mind thinks, and your ideas are rocket fuel. You're going to put it in a rocket one day and it's just going to go. And so I love being in the space with you now, knowing that this is just rumblings of the beginnings of things that you'll do. One day we'll be looking at you doing something and talking about something else and be like, oh my gosh, we talked to her. Like, yeah, it was about to go down and it went down. Like, and so I just, I appreciate your fire and everything that you bring. You just keep doing what you're doing because you're going to help so many people.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Really, really. Thank you so much for those kind words. Thank you.
Very cool.
For everybody else, if you want to find us, Marc, how can they find us?
Oh, just send us an email at marcandcathey@gmail.com. That's MarcandCathey. Cathey, I just dropped it like I was dropping a beat on him.
You totally did. I was like, skills that pay the bills.
Marcandcathey@gmail.com. Bring it on. Bring your ideas. We want to help you to drop your ideas, reach more people, and have a greater impact on the world. So listen, next time, check us out. Check us out every time we come on with all of these amazing people and all these amazing ideas, because all we do here is let it drop because it's about to go down.